And now, the survival show that once survived, answering the question, does this rag smell like chloroform to you? In this episode, Gary Collins drops by. He's going to tell us all about the freedom and trials of living the simple life of a modern nomad. Howdy and welcome to In the Rabbit Hole's Urban Survival Podcast. This is episode number 267. I'm your host, Aaron, and you are in the rabbit hole. Safe and sound. Gary, welcome back to In the Rabbit Hole, dude.
Thanks for having me back.
You know, it's fun because, like, so many of the guests I get to talk to them in my personal life, we become friends and we talk all the time. And then it's funny when you're on the show and I have to think of keep those two things separate.
Yeah, you forget what we've already talked about and what other people who are listening may not know.
Yes. Yes.
So,
exactly.
yeah. And they go, like, for instance, why is this guy all scraggly and long hair and doesn't seem to really give a shit? Well, there's a lot to that. They'll learn. They're learning this interview.
Yeah. So, you know, and I think that's great. And we've covered a lot of stuff together. Like we've covered the health stuff and we've covered your off grid. And I think one of the neat things that you've done with just your brand in general is tied it all together something. And we'll come to all that at the very end in a way that it's, and you and I we were actually talking about this yesterday, as a matter of fact, the bow that wraps all this together. But today, let's talk about RV. And I know we've done a little bit on the show before, and I know it's something that a lot of preppers are into or interested in. One is a means of bug out, and the other one as just as a lifestyle. And I know RVing in general has been blowing up lately. But let's get into you. What started you down this path? Like why did you get into, why do you have an RV and why did you start living in one at one point?
Well, and it's interesting you talk about that RVs are kind of booming now, but RV living, you know, the lifestyle has been, you know, it has its booms and busts just like everything else.
Oh, okay.
You know, RVs have been around for, gosh, I think I have it in my book. I want to say since the 1920s, if I remember right, was the first RV.
Oh, I didn't realize.
And they were geared towards obvious. Yeah, they were, I want to say, gosh, I'm trying to remember the name of the very first one, but they were designed for rich people.
Okay.
The very first ones. You know, as people kind of get into it, it booms, and as the economy gets better, and then, you know, people retire, and then you get a lot of snowbirds, and it kind of comes, it's all this kind of cyclical at times, but they've been around forever. They've been around a long time, almost 100 years. So for me, it was more of practicality, I guess is the best way to put it. I was still living in San Diego. And anyone who knows Southern California knows it is outrageously and stupidly expensive. So I was downsizing and getting ready to do all this stuff and trying to figure everything out. I downsized into my 475-foot cottage from my 1,700 square foot house, sold a lot of stuff. And I bought the RV kind of as, it was an 18-foot travel trailer used. So I was getting my feet wet, is the best way to put it. I didn't know if I would like the lifestyle. I was contemplating. I'd been planning of living remotely and possibly off the grid. The off the grid stuff wasn't for sure. It was kind of, I was thinking about it. And so I kind of went, well, let me buy a travel trailer and see how I think of a smaller lifestyle in the, you know, I wanted to move into it and transition, but just putting the plan together. So I went out and bought one used. So I'd already downsized once. And then once I decided, okay, went up, found my property. I went, okay, this is going to happen now. I got my 20 acres, have the travel trailer. It's time, you know? And so I sold everything and then moved into the travel trailer, but stayed in San Diego area because I was still running my business. I was working other jobs in between. You know, I was a college professor at the time. I was doing all kinds of stuff. Just, you know, you got to pay the bills kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I was just slowly kind of moving forward. And from there, and that's where it started. And so I've been living in one ever since. And that's been, my time scale, which we can talk about, is pretty bad. Because when you live this kind of lifestyle, you interact with time completely differently. When people are waiting for the holidays and all that, I'm like, it's just another day to me. Sunday and Friday are the same for me when you live this lifestyle, because each day is different and you have your tasks for each day. It's just what it is. And it's really bizarre. So I'm starting to realize I'm losing track of time. As far as years, I'm all, gosh, when was that? And I got to go look stuff up. Yeah, but I want to say it's been about, where are we, 2018? It's got to be about 6 years now.
Okay.
And so, yeah, I just moved into it, decided, okay, is this going to work? Yeah, I like it. It's going to work. And that's where I went from there. And it was more about simplicity, downsizing, simplifying, and a transition in between to have a place to live and to be mobile. That was one of the big things too, is once I sold the house, I realized I didn't want to be tied down like that again. I wanted to be able to be mobile and get up and go.
So that was the locus of all this? This was about, you wanted a more nomadic lifestyle, so to speak, or more variety in your day-to-day life. So which
more nomadic, but also just, nomadic, but just to have the option of.
Okay.
You know what I mean? There's people who buy travel trailers and literally live in the same place and never leave.
Okay.
Then there's other people who use them just for camping and holidays. Then there's a group of us who actually travel around in them. And we use them to live in part-time. Then we use them for vacations on other times. And, I use it as a utility. I look at my travel trailer as a utility in my life.
Okay.
That it gives me the option, because I own a house, obviously the house up here, I own it.
Right.
But under different circumstances than before. I don't have any debt on it. There's no loan. I built it. It's a different animal. So, but the thing was, I thought at the time, well, once I get the house up and going, I'll just, I'll dump the RV, but I've liked it so much that I'm still in it. So, once it gets cold up here in the winter, I take off and I head south, and I live in my RV near my family and friends for part of the year. And then the other part of the year I live up here, and I'm working on stage 5, 6, 25. I don't know what it is at this point of another plan.
Okay.
Where I'm contemplating buying another house south in not remote, but with land and not in a residential area, but further south in an area where I want to live outdoors, better weather, and obviously nice weather in the winter. I've become a little weather baby is the best way to put it. Because I just, I grew up in the mountains. I've lived in the mountains, a large part of my life. It's fun. It's not so much fun in the winter. It's fun for about 2 weeks, and then you're sick of it.
Yeah.
And you're like, okay, snow sucks, slush sucks, mud sucks. I've done all the skiing and all that stuff growing up. That's all out of my system. So for me, I'm more, like I said, an outdoors warm guy. I like to mountain bike. I like to road bike. I like to hike. I like that stuff. So for me, that's what I'm kind of contemplating, but I won't buy the next property unless I can pay cash.
Okay.
So that throws a twist on it, because I've made the decision I did this when I sold my house, that I would never finance another house ever again. Just the way I am. I've owned houses since I was in my 20s, doing the math, breaking it down, getting hung up in one area, getting trapped. You're trapped in the economy. You're trapped where it's just, for me, I'm not going to do it. And I'm going to actually write a pretty large section in a upcoming financial book when I get to it, about home ownership and the benefits of, and also the cons to owning a house financially, responsibility, time. People understand owning a house takes a lot of time.
Yes, it does.
There's a lot of stuff you got to do. So that's the thing about a travel trailer. There's no yard. You know, you basically got about 150 square foot or less in
Mhm.
most of them, and that's it. You can clean that thing in about 45 minutes and you're done.
Yeah. So and
Two and a
bringing
half
up your
years.
new one, that's an interesting point too. So I've got another buddy. He's been on the show a bunch of times, and he built his. So he bought a Sprinter and then went through the trial and tribulations of doing a custom build. Did you do that, or did you just do an off the shelf RV? You walk in and say, "I like that. I'll take it."
No, all mine have been off the shelf. I looked at the teeny home slash kind of thing, and it became more of where I was living. I couldn't build one.
Mm.
I just, you have to have all the tools. You have to have the space.
And then I guess the
Pretty
problem
basic.
with
Yeah.
buying like a strip Sprinter or something, at least for you, the problem with buying a strip Sprinter and then building out the inside, it's like Gary didn't want to do that, all that hassle, and you have to have the tools and you have to have a place to have all that stuff stored in while you're doing the internal build out on your RV.
Yeah. I don't think my landlords would have been very happy with me dropping in a project like that on their property and blocking the driveway. And it wouldn't have happened. It just was the living situation I was in.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And plus I couldn't use it.
Mm, mm,
And doing it like a Sprinter and doing the inside, I'm not against it. It just didn't work for me. And that's a great thing. We've talked about this, about the mobile and off grid living. Everyone does it differently. Everyone. You will not get two people together who have done it exactly the same.
mhm.
You won't.
Let's take a quick break for this vital message. Listener, do you get at least $3 a month worth of value out of I2H? You should see what we do for the Roving Horde Armada members. Check it out today by visiting I2H.net. Members receive access to the private I2H Armada Slack group where they get to connect, ask questions, get the news, escape the nonsense in their social media feeds, and shenanigans. Twice a month, members get together on a private virtual roundtable. We discuss guns, meat, news that matters, and other things you just can't talk about with anybody else. Access to members-only content and every episode ever produced. And that's just to name a few things you get with your membership when you sign up through I2H.net. In the Rabbit Hole is mostly kept on the air and supported by members just like you. Go to I2H.net to find out more and become part of the Roving Horde Armada. Now, back to today's guest. So you work remotely, you work for yourself. I mean, you have that advantage that a lot of people don't, but I think more and more it's the remote worker thing has become pretty big. I mean, that's what I do, and I've done it for years and I love it. It works for me. It doesn't work well for some people. You have to be really disciplined with yourself and your time. But
Oh, yeah.
and then you add on top of that, you're mobile and you've got to find Wi-Fi and do all these other things. How has that worked out? You being able to run your business while doing the RV life.
It's quite an endeavor. It's not for everyone is the best way to put it. I started working on this 8 years ago. Now it's hard to believe it's been that long, but I started all this as far as how I was building the business and where I didn't know where I was going. Now all entrepreneurs, we never know.
Right.
You end up somewhere in the end. That's all you know.
Mm-hmm.
But I had to figure it out as I went. I basically started in San Diego, so it wasn't that big of a deal. I had internet access. But as I was exploring several years ago, I got one of the first Verizon Wi-Fi hotspot devices, the Jetpack.
Okay.
I mean, I was literally one of their first customers. Yeah. As a matter of fact, I know at the store I was the first person to get one. And it was very new to Verizon. So I was kind of like a testing bed for them to figure out how that thing was going to work.
Mm-hmm.
It worked really well. So I've been using it. It's been 6-7 years. I mean, I can't remember when it first came. I literally had it when it first came out. And I played around with it because what would anyone too, when you work at home, you go a little nutty. And so what I realized very early on, I couldn't sit in the house all day and just pound away. I had to get out of the house. So what I would do is I'd go to coffee shops and just go there and work. And there's a whole, there's a whole following of people who work in coffee shops who are
Yeah.
self-employed because it gets you away. You got to get away. You get cabin fever. So I started doing that. So I didn't trust, I was in the government. I was a federal agent in military intelligence. I was not dumb enough to jump on, coffee shops, hotspots. I mean, it's opening up to all kinds of things. I mean, there's hackers that literally sit in coffee shops waiting for your dumb ass to use your credit card, and it's gotten a lot better. Back then, the technology was still catching up. So a lot of the networks were open. There was no security whatsoever. And so that's how I started. And I kind of cut my teeth to learning it. And there was a lot of data limits. So you couldn't use it all the time. But now the technology is caught up big time. It's been difficult. I've had years where, I didn't have the data. I had to plan, when I wanted to do an interview, because you'd have to buy extra data and the data was really expensive. I've had $300-400 data months over the years. Yeah. Because I had to get this stuff done. They were important interviews. It was just, I didn't have much of a choice. It was an expense. But now it's unlimited. Sure. Not quite. But I'm in an unlimited plan and it's worked fine. I've been testing the unlimited plan for a year and a half. But so far, so good. We're using it right now. We're using video. It's not bad. The bandwidth can be iffy. There's days when if there's a lot of people on the network, the video is not going to work. Yeah, it's just too botchy. But most of the time, it works totally fine. But discipline, all that's a whole nother can of worms. You know that. I mean,
yes.
I'm actually getting ready to start another book, and I'm going to be talking about some of these issues, time management, discipline. And if you're not disciplined, being an entrepreneur in general, forget it. Yeah. Almost impossible.
Yeah. My wife teases me. She's like, you get up, you get dressed in slacks and a golf shirt to walk 25 yards. And she thinks it's funny. And I'm like, no, you have to. I work from home. So I have to get up every day just like I'm going to work. I have to put on clothes like I'm going to work, sit out on my desk at a specific time, and my fingers better be moving or I'm not making money. And I think she gets it now. But I think unless you do it as a lifestyle, it's really hard to understand. No, you have to treat it just like you were going to a real job.
You do. And luckily for me, in the government, we had some telecommunication. We worked from home, but it was like the beginnings of it. And as a federal agent, it was really hard because I had to plan my days on when I was just writing reports most of the time because it was too hard to write. Or I knew I had interviews that were in a different close to my house, but weren't in the direction of the office. So you had to schedule it right, and everything was encrypted. And so it wasn't easy, but it adapted. I had early adaptation of learning how to work from home a little bit, at least. But if you're going to do this, like I'm the opposite of you. And that's another thing. It's different for everyone. Yet again, I roll out, I get up earlier than I ever, most of the time, than that I did for a normal job. Because I'm ready to roll. I like what I do. A normal job, you wake up in the morning, oh, this sucks. Where's my coffee? You sit there, and I don't have that anymore. When I wake up, I'm ready to go. I know what I got to get done. It's my day. It's not someone else's day. It's mine. So it's a little different motivation as well. But I go to the gym, early in the morning, usually. And usually most of the time. And then I stay in my gym clothes pretty much all day. Today, it's t-shirt, cargo shorts, I live a very, very relaxed life in that sense. Because for me, it's a little different too. I'm an author, I do a little different business. It's simple living. Well, I live it. Why would I, for me, why would I show up and, sit here in a suit and a tie? It's It's not my lifestyle. I don't even own one.
Yeah.
I can't even go find one, let alone go wear one. No, I don't own. I have one pair of slacks, which I haven't tried on in 2 years, so I don't even know how they fit. I got one. I've got one dress shirt. Don't know how that thing fits either. Matter of fact, not sure I know where it is. So even meetings, my meeting, it's very, very interesting how your perception changes, because I wore a suit and tie in the government. I dressed up, and then sometimes you'd be wearing you look totally trashy. You're undercover. You're dressed a totally different way. But now it's how I want to dress. So not to say that I'm a lazy slob, but I just don't care. I'm not impressed. I'm out in the sticks right now. What are the turkeys this morning out in my front yard? Are they going to laugh at me because I'm not dressed appropriately?
Mm-hmm.
They don't care. And for me, the discipline becomes more of the work schedule. And even my meetings, to be honest with you, the people I meet with now, we're usually in shorts and t-shirts.
Mm-hmm.
So even my meetings, we're all dressed alike. And that's what I love about the circle that I run in, and what I do as a business is it's all like-minded people. So it's not like I'm going, like I was working, as we talked about, on possible book deals down on the road. Well, the person I'm talking to is literally dressed just like me. We're in cargo shorts. He had a polo on because he was working, but that was it. It was casual. It's about ideas, and that's what I like is, who cares? Clothing to me, I'm going to write a chapter on this too. I think fashion is one of the stupidest things we have ever created. Nothing against you. You're dressed. You're smart. You're a marketing guy. I get what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
I totally get it. And I've done it too. But for me, I have so much other stuff to get done.
Mm-hmm.
I don't care about my shoes. I don't care about, I don't care. I don't even care about my hair anymore. I just don't care.
I think the funny thing for me was, I realized it was one of those things where it was this just personal cue, just like when I have to write. When I write, I have a specific playlist I listen to. I have a chair I sit in, the very Stephen King systematic approach to getting yourself in the mood to write. And I have to do the same thing with work. Like I have to put on work clothes, or I find myself screwing off more than usual, we'll say. So what would you say?
And it's a mindset.
Yeah, it is. And for me, it's a physical
for
thing.
Everyone.
Yeah, exactly. So where, like this, there's a lot to this. What were some of the other obstacles that you had to deal with, both in getting into this lifestyle and just living a more simplified lifestyle? Because it's the funny irony is trying to live a simplified lifestyle is getting into it's not exactly simple sometimes.
Well, there's a funny saying in the circles, that this simple living is harder than you think. There's work to it. I think people get the misconception of that they can just, buy some land or buy an RV and just kind of hang out. The money will just come in. I just need to create an internet website. I just need to write a book. It's just like anything in life. There's a whole lot going on. And what you're doing is you're transitioning from one life to another. So there's going to be certain things that you have to get through in order to make the next step. Downsizing, getting rid of the stuff. You can't move it. You have no room for it. And some people go, I just put it in storage. So you're going to pay $300-400 a month for absolutely no reason
to hang on to a bunch of crap that apparently you
that's
didn't
not
need.
Really downside.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not downsizing. That's lateral moving. You're just moving crap from one point to another instead of really transitioning and getting rid of it. And not only that, but trying to balance your schedule, because you're like, for me, I'm building a house. I bought the land. I had to build roads, build a house, moving back and forth, traveling. And in between there, you still have to run a business. Then you have technology you need to keep up with. You got customers, you got to write books. I mean, there's all this stuff going on. So that's why I say, if you're not organized and if you don't have the ability to schedule and prioritize your time, you're going to go out in flames, and it's not going to take long. You're going to do it fairly quickly. And that's the part when I get asked by people to help them, especially people who want to transition just to be an entrepreneur. I go, you got to get your act together first. I mean, you've got to be regimented. And I'm not talking, the regimentation of I'm miserable again. I went from one misery working for someone. Now I'm miserable working for myself.
Mm-hmm.
It's more of finding that schedule and what works for you to make you productive. I'm different. There's different types of people. I'm different in the sense that I don't have a set schedule. I don't write to a schedule. I'm a pretty unique author in that sense. Most authors have strict writing times.
Mm-hmm.
I do not. I write when I feel, when I'm ready and I have the time. But I can get away with that because I can write very quickly. Because my books are about my life. I'm not doing a ton of outside research and quotes and all that. I'm writing about what I do and how you can do it.
Mm-hmm.
A little different. I can write quicker that way. And plus I can write fast. Once I get my ideas kicking and I can roll out and I'm disciplined. I can write an 8-hour block and write. I've written, I think the Off the Grid book, I wrote that front to back, got the initial manuscript done in 2 weeks.
Oh, wow. See, we're friends and I didn't even know that you did it that fast.
I sat down for 2 weeks straight. There was no days off. It was 14 days straight, 8-10-hour days, pounded it out. And the best part about that was it was only gone over once. That was a one write, one edit, done.
Damn.
It was shocking. I thought, I was like, it's where I learned. It's where I learned that I could actually write and organize thoughts and put things together. I didn't know for that. I didn't plan. I didn't know I was going to be an author, to be honest with you. That's, again, about being an entrepreneur.
Right. What are some of the other obstacles that you've run into, like besides time management and things like that? And, I guess we can segue now into, it would make sense, like as far as just dealing with personal security.
You're in a different lifestyle. You're out like where I'm at right now. 3 people decided to storm the hill and, and there ain't no cops coming before I've got about, 20 holes in me. So, it's a little different. You're out on your own. So it's, you're more vigilant because you're traveling around and, you're not in a neighborhood where everyone, especially in an RV. You're all in. But the one thing about if you stay in RV parks and even in rest stops, everyone's looking out for each other. I've noticed.
Really? That surprises me.
Most RV parks I've stayed at. The RV parks I stay at, no one locks their doors for the most part because everyone knows each other. And if someone's going into your travel trailer, your fifth wheel, your class ABC, someone's going to see it. It's more than likely someone will see someone doing that. So it's that's what I mean. It's a very different community in the sense that even though people are trying to be to themselves, that people are still looking out. It's not like they're being nosy or spying. It's like, at an RV park I was at where I stay at in California, my hose broke, my water line to my travel trailer. I'd left and my neighbor came over while I was gone, turned my water off. I got home, went, oh, that's kind of a big puddle. I wonder where that came from. And I noticed my water was off. And then I saw it and I went, oh God, my hose broke. And so the guy came over and turned off my water. And, and that's how it is. He came over later on and said, hey, I noticed and I turned it off. And that's how it is. It's just different. It's really hard to explain unless you're doing it. But the RV community is exactly that. It's a community. You'll run into someone you've never met before. 3 hours later, you're having drinks, at their picnic table in front of their RV, hanging out.
So I guess that makes sense since you are out and since there is this sense of the unknown, you're in an area that you don't know that well. And I would imagine there's a feeling of more, and I use the word intentionally, feeling of less security since you don't have brick wrapped around you. And this is my, plot of land mentality that it by its very nature creates an atmosphere where people kind of band together. Is that, am I making a correct assumption there?
Yeah. And they're different because the RV living and then the off the grid living. right? They're
Mm,
two different,
right.
they're two different things. And the off the grid living, as we've discussed before, the security there is, and I've had this discussion. I was just at Mother Earth News Fair and I talked, it was funny. A guy came up to me and he goes, I own your book, Gary. I'm a big fan and I live on the town next to you. How funny is that? I'm in Oregon of
Huh.
all, and a guy walks up and goes, and he told me where he lived. I went, yeah, you're right next to me. And he was real nice. He just walked by and said, hey, and said that. But and he actually commented before he left. He goes, the security chapter in your Going Off the Grid book was worth the book alone. He goes, that helped me and my wife out a ton.
Mm,
Because most people think that if you're going to live remotely, that basically you don't have to worry about security. Well, it's actually the opposite, because you're in a smaller town, you're in a more remote area, everyone knows you're there.
mm,
They know you're there as soon as you put first tires on that dirt road. They know you're coming,
mm-hmm.
because everyone's, and there are some nosy, goofy people in the sticks. So, and there's, crime doesn't go away.
Mm-hmm.
Crime is everywhere. There's dirt bags everywhere.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just the way it is.
Yeah. Whenever someone wants to get into the debate about that with me, as far as urban versus rural, like whether, survival kind of stuff, I'm just like, there's shitheads everywhere. Like you're not
everywhere.
You get a little more distance, but it's people are people. It is what it is. The percent of people in the world that are sociopaths and worse are what they are. It's not going to change just because you surrounded yourself with a bunch of trees or more trees.
And just because you live remotely doesn't mean that you have a different demographic automatically than the rest of the country.
Mm-hmm.
Your crime stats are your crime stats. And don't get me wrong, there are areas that have higher crime. But for the most part, your security, again, it's just like you're running your own power system. When you're talking about that, I've been playing with my solar system last couple of days, retweaking settings, and I put a couple extra panels in, and things have been working a little differently. So I'm tweaking stuff. Well, I'm running my own power plant, basically.
Mm-hmm.
So when you're remote, you're running your own security force. You are your police department pretty much. Because like I said, by the time they get up here, whatever's happened has happened. They're just coming to write a report at that point. And so you have to be careful. And I'm very vigilant. I have security cameras. I have multiple gates. And people go, oh, God, that sounds terrible. You mean I have to do that to live remotely? Well, yeah, I grew up remotely as a kid. We had the same things I have now, and that was 40 plus years ago.
Yeah.
Nothing's changed.
How do you deal with it within the RV, though? And I'm glad you made that distinction early on when we were talking about when we started this part of the conversation. How do you deal with it as far as an RV? Like you're in an RV park, people are watching out for each other, but then there's just being on the road and carrying firearms with you and things like that. How do you deal with those things?
And that's where, all this, us people looking for ultimate freedom and libertarians, it gets tricky because states have different laws. And, you're all, well, I just can't leave my firearm. I can't just leave them somewhere. I take some stuff with me, maybe. Because you're crossing state lines with different laws. My concealed carry permit isn't, it's for 32 states. Well, there you go. It gets really wonky. And that's the biggest thing we all struggle with, to be honest with you, on the security side is, the laws are ambiguous for a reason. You don't know when you're doing stuff wrong. You have to, you just don't know. So you just do your best. You're smart about it. Don't go load up, 8,000 rounds and 25 firearms in your travel trailer and start driving around the country. Probably not a smart idea.
And then do
not a good idea at all. That's a good way. How do you explain that away? If you get pulled over, that's going to be a bad one. Things are going to go very wrong for you. So use your head, but figure out, you end up in a place, figure out what the concealed carry law is, do your research, see if you can get a concealed carry permit for that state, even though you don't live there, which I have found is almost in most states is very difficult to do. California is a nightmare. I've tried several times getting a concealed carry. It
Wow,
is asinine.
even as former law enforcement, it's still trouble.
They don't care.
Wow.
And the reason is you have to be a resident. Their rule is you have to be a resident of California in order to get a concealed carry permit there.
Mm.
Unless under special circumstances, and I've yet to find anyone with the special circumstances who has gotten one.
Mm.
End of story. So, and trust me, I have connections. I work law enforcement in California, and there's nothing they can do. So, you have to make your choices. And not only that, even if you can, getting one there is incredibly difficult. It's a pain in the butt. It's expensive.
Right.
That's why I don't live in Cal. Yeah, that's why I'm not a resident of California. Great
Makes
place
sense.
to visit.
Yeah.
Terrible place to live.
Yeah. Yeah. So, to take a completely different bend with it and something a little more fun, how does the single life work living in an RV? Is it a lot of, hey, does this rag smell like chloroform? I mean, is that kind of how women look at you when you're like, I live in an RV?
Yeah. It's interesting to see the stereotypes that go along with it. Because even my friends rouse me, the guy you trailer trash, and now, of course, they see how I live and they go, oh, man, I wish I could do that. But yeah, they look at you kind of like you're this homeless kind of bouncing around. That's where it started. But now today with all the TV shows, and it's become a little more mainstream of the nomadic lifestyle and roaming and working, transient working, far as many people have written books about, running a business and living a lifestyle out of an RV or traveling around, even overseas, right? Costa Rica, Puerto Rico, doing stuff in other places, like visiting and living in a villa for like 3 months, jumping somewhere else, go to Europe and work the whole time. Yeah. So now people, when I tell them, the reaction I'm getting more now is, whoa, really? And then it piques their curiosity and they're all, well, how do you do it? And it's like, well, that's why I wrote the book. And it opens up a lot of conversations because, like I said, not only that, but it gives me a insight into who is looking at it and who's interested in it. And it's very different than what I originally thought. There are a lot of older single women, 50s and 60s, who are very interested in my lifestyle. And I know some who are doing it. That threw me. I did not expect that one at all. And I have found that demographic is far more interested in it than I ever imagined.
That's wild.
I would say at least 10% of the people at the Mother Earth News Fair were women in their late 50s, early 60s who pulled me aside and started asking me questions.
Oh, wow. And you and I had all kinds of interesting discussions about people at Mother Earth News and all that. It wasn't what you would think it was necessarily.
No, it was, and I went into it open-minded because I know Mother Earth News. They've reviewed my books. I grew up with the magazine. My neighbors' parents got the magazine, but I knew the crowd in a way, a little bit, but I didn't know them for sure. I'd never been to one of their fairs. I was very impressed as far as the organization and just everything there. I mean, there was something for everyone. I mean, literally, it went from herbs to, homemade soaps to, your own, they had the lumber mill, portable lumber mills there, chicken coops, to, reading, hunting, fishing books. They had everything. It was really, really cool.
Right.
So it was really neat to see people and understand that what we talk about, what me and you talk about in our communities, it's everywhere. I mean, people really like it.
Yeah.
And it's catching, which is good because we've discussed there's a lot of unhappy people out there.
Yeah.
Trying to find their, and I always say, because people ask me, what would you give as a one piece of advice? Anyone trying to get into this? And I go, actually, getting ready to write some of this is you have to find a purpose. That is the thing in life. Before you can start this journey, and not that you're going to know it perfectly by any stretch, But if you're going to go on this journey, you're looking for more freedom, happiness. What's your purpose? You know, what do you want to do? And I've found the people like us, it always evolves from helping people, helping each other in some way, right? That's what community is all about. So my purpose may be relaying information via speaking and books. Someone else may be by being a homeschooler in a community that they live, and there's like 40 families that live on a piece of land and they homeschool. Well, that could be your purpose, is to help the children and help homeschool your children and other people. That's a great purpose.
Yeah.
Because when you say that, people go, purpose, oh shit, and they think big, far out things. It's to change the world. It's to, drill wells in Africa and give hundreds of thousands of people water. Okay, that's a great thought, but is it realistic? So it's more of, your purpose can be what you think are small things, but over a lifetime are huge.
Yeah.
Could influence thousands and thousands of people without you really knowing it.
That is so true. And it's funny with that was
deep.
That was deep. But it's funny, in my day job, when in marketing, it's one of the first things is, okay, what is the purpose? Like, why does this company exist? What, why are you here? And it is amazing to me how many companies can't answer that, and let alone people. But I think you make a really good point out of that. And I think that brings up, in a loose way, obviously you've got a lot of stuff going on. So you're doing the RV stuff and you're doing the off-grid stuff. And it's kind of, there's all these transitions and shades of gray in between. What does it work like as far as when you were making this transition and then even living it? Was it easier or harder than you thought it was going to be when you first started out?
Far harder.
Really?
Far harder. If I wasn't such a knucklehead, I'm not a quitter.
Yeah.
That is one thing that I definitely is one of my strengths. I will gut it out. I will tough things out, no matter, to my detriment. Trust me.
I know the feeling. Yeah.
But it's, again, there's no roadmap. I think the information is much better today. There's a lot more blogs, people writing about it, putting books out, talking about how they do it and what they do. So it's caught on a little more. When I was first starting, my friends literally thought I had lost my mind. They thought I had gone off the deep end. I'd left the government. I was walking around my house with the, tinfoil hat on and a shotgun, walking in circles, basically. Because there just wasn't a whole lot of people doing it. And if there were, they weren't out. Because let's face it, this stuff, people in the 60s, I mean, this was going on in the 60s. So it's not new by any stretch. It's just now the way it's exposed is very different. These communities I know of a community that's been around since the 60s. No one's ever heard of it. I know what I mean? It's caught on more now, more people, but that was the point. They were in these communities and you were in your own little world. Well, today it's a little harder. But I think in the sense that you have to figure it out on your own, certain pieces. And in anything in life, you're going to royally screw things up. And it's not because you're incompetent. It's not because you didn't plan correctly. That's life. Shit goes wrong. And that's the thing you have to realize going into it. Things are going to go wrong. There's going to be days when you're beaten down and you're going, what the hell am I doing? Why did I do this? I can just go get a job. I can go live in my box in the neighborhood, have my neighbor 3 feet away from me, staring out their window into my kitchen window. I've had that. Have you had? I literally have been staring my kitchen window at my neighbor and they're staring at their kitchen and we're staring right at each other. Talk about really uncomfortable. But just weird.
Yeah.
That's the thing. This lifestyle, once you get there, like I'm settling in. I've been doing this a long time and it's going to evolve for much longer. but I'm settling in, figuring things out. Man, I wouldn't take it back for a second. I mean, I'm thoroughly enjoying my life. I enjoy the people that I meet and talk to and helping other people do it. Not to say I'm the all-knowing king of the mountain by it, not even close. There's people who have far more knowledge than me. But I'm a little different too. And I'm willing to roll the dice. You know, how many people will go RV living and live off the grid? I'm in a very small select minority who will do both those.
Yeah.
You know, and then run a business and then do this. So, but I like that. You know, I'm a person, I have a busy mind. So things got to be moving all the time. I know how to relax. I'm getting better at that, because that's part of it too, is in life, you got to know how to relax and enjoy yourself. And it's about balance, right? But yeah, it's difficult because you're getting into things that there's not a whole lot of support. And not only that, but your friends and family are not going to understand what you're doing at all. They're just, like I said, they just think you've gone off the deep end, not a clue. But like I said, full circle now, all my friends are into my stuff. They're like, oh, that looks really cool. When's your house done? When can I come up and stay?
Yeah.
And I'm getting a lot of that. It's just interesting that how it's changed. But, you know, I just tell people it's difficult. Not only that, but we talked about this. Finances. You got to be organized. You got to have a plan. You got to have money. This world still runs off money. And a lot of people I've ran into, and nothing wrong with this. If you can swing it, I love it. There's some fantastic people who have done it, but they're the exception and not the rule. Is that this lifestyle still costs money? I mean, you still have to have an income. You have to be able to pay for these things. It's just like being an entrepreneur. You know, the people who quit their job and say, I'm going to be an entrepreneur tomorrow. I just quit my job. Do you have a business? Are you selling a product? And a lot of people go, no, I'll figure it out. And they're the 9 out of 10 who fail, because 9 out of 10 entrepreneurs fail. So, you know, it's that, when's the best time to get a job? Well, when you have one. When's the best time to become an entrepreneur? Well, when you have a job. You know, you do it on the side until you can figure it out and it can support you. This is the same thing. I wouldn't jump off the deep end and sell all my belongings. Screw it. Go get and don't get me wrong. Like I said, I know people who have done this, but it is to do. Don't go out, buy an RV and say, boom, I'm gone. You don't quite know what you're doing yet. So it could be very, very painful. You know, kind of, you know, slowly get into it. Maybe buy that small travel trailer, head out. You want to live in a certain remote area? Go visit it, spend 2 weeks there with the RV. Get to know the people, get to know the area. Is this going to work for you? You think this is the first place I looked at? No, I spent 7 years looking and traveling before I figured out this is where I wanted to be. I looked all over the country. You know, I traveled for the government. So on the side, I was kind of plotting out my future, where I might want to live. And so happened, I was working a case in Spokane, Washington. Ended up dating a girl here, fell in love with the area, did some more research. That's how it happened. But I had looked at many other places before. This wasn't just one. I showed up and went, okay, where's the real estate agent? I got some money. There was a lot of research and thought that went in behind it. And even the RV thing, I did a lot of research, but I still made mistakes.
Yeah.
RVs they're complicated. There's a lot of them.
Yeah.
A lot.
We've looked at them a few times and I've just gone, this is kind of like the boat thing. Actually, well, the boat thing was even more complicated, but yeah, RVs are complicated. So man, somebody listen to this, they're like, all right, this RV stuff, this off-grid stuff, all this stuff, I want to find out more. How do people connect with you, Gary?
The new website, which has been out 3-4 months now, is thesimplelifenow.com. All my books are there. They're available everywhere. My books are available, Amazon. They're distributed everywhere. But you could go to my website. That's where my blog is. That's where I give the free information. That's if you sign up, you get to my newsletter, you get 10% off your first order. I have free shipping. That's the place. As me and you have discussed, I have my coming out party per se of I no longer really participate in social media. I feel it's not part of the lifestyle. I don't like it. I never have liked it. So I tell people, if you want to get a hold of me, you have to go to the website. I have an email form. To this day, I answer every single email I get from anyone who has questions, and I will do that until I become so famous that, I can't do it. No, that is the best way.
Used to be under the brand Primal Power, and you've changed that, and you went through a brand refresh and everything. And it was interesting because as we were just talking about finding your purpose, and then also figuring out like how do you distill that down, and that's how you ended up rebranding everything as The Simple Life. Can you tell us a little bit about that for just a second, like what that means to you, and how, as we alluded to in the very beginning, how that really kind of puts a bow on what might seem like the random craziness that is Gary.
And that's the funny thing. I'm glad you bring that up too, because I've gotten comments that, people go, Gary just rolls by the seat of his pants, man. And it's not true.
Mm.
There is a plan behind the scenes always. I'm a very organized guy. I'm a type A. But with that, the original plan and evolving your business and letting the business come to you at some point. In the beginning, I was trying to force what I was doing. Yeah, I'm passionate about health and living the primal lifestyle and all that. But where I was going was changing the business model, but it was becoming confusing. Not only to, obviously a little bit to the customer, but to me as the owner.
Mm-hmm.
So my original stuff was all paleo primal health related. Well, the Off the Grid book, as we discussed in other interviews, was an accident. It was doing interviews and people asking me what I was up to, the host. And I go, I bought 20 acres. I'm building a house off the grid. And it's like, hold on, screeching halt.
Uh-huh.
Hold on a second. What are you doing? And that's when I went, I think I found my next book. So I started documenting and I wrote the book, and the book took off, and all of a sudden I'm Primal Power Method health guy and an Off the Grid book. I did another interview and the RV living came up. Well, I was already doing that. I've been doing it for years. Well, guess what? There comes the next book. Everyone's all, hey, you live in an RV. How'd you find your RV? How do you do this? And so I went, well, I better write an RV book. Well, it was called The Simple Life. Well, the light bulb goes off, discussions, talking to people, because I didn't know where I was going.
Mm-hmm.
The business was doing good, but it had kind of plateaued. I was a little burned out. My life was, continuing on with this lifestyle. That's why I talk about your purpose. Well, my purpose started out as helping people with my inside knowledge, working for the FDA and everything. About health and how to get your health in order and all the inside knowledge that I had. Well, it evolved into something more, and my purpose changed without me really knowing it. But I realized my lifestyle is part of my purpose, if that makes sense.
Makes perfect sense.
Because I can teach it to other people.
Mm.
Yeah. So it came organically on its own. I mean, that's really how it should come, right? Mm-hmm. Your passion will flow into something. Where it ends up, no one knows, and your passions could change. So, and that's with the Simple Life series, the new website. I just, when it hit, I said, that's it. It's the Simple Life. That's what I'm teaching. Mm. Well, we were talking, it was life simplification. Remember, I was fumbling around with the proper category and figuring out where it fit in.
Yeah, you and I just talking Simple Life title. Yeah, it was like a year you and I were going back, and it's like, it's life simplification, and then trying to figure out, like, I remember you were trying to figure out like how to put that in a way that made sense, and it fell out one day.
Well, and you can have a great idea,
mm-hmm.
but if you're not sharing it correctly and you don't quite know where it fits, and I didn't quite know where it fit yet,
mm-hmm.
well, the people let me know where it fit. I put out those 2 Simple Life books in April, May. Everything's brand new.
Mm.
But the reaction has been, wow, that I like that, and I'm all, that's great, because it's reinforcing my ideas. because everyone thinks that you're just going to come up with this idea, create a business, throw it out there, and everyone's going to love it.
No.
Right? We all thought that.
Yeah.
You thought it, I'm sure.
Yeah. Oh,
I thought that.
Yeah.
And we all think that our ideas are so brilliant, but that's not true.
Yeah.
I mean, people are finicky. Humans are goofy organisms. We don't know what we want half the time.
Yeah.
So trying to figure out an idea and relay that to other people and figure out, what they need, because most people don't know what they need. They only know what they want, which are two different things.
Yes.
Right? We all know that,
Mm-hmm.
I think if anyone can watch and learn a lesson from me, it's just that I followed my path and then my purpose found me in a way, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
So I know that what I'm doing is not only, and it's a business. That's another thing. I think people will come in and they go, well, I want to help people. Hey, that's great. But you can't help people if you can't make any money and you can't support yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Can't help anyone that way, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there has to be a business element to it. And the nasty word marketing, we know. You have to know how to market, have to figure out how to get the product to people. And I wish I had a magic bullet for that too. Yeah. I don't. Like I said, my crowd found me. And it wasn't overnight. I'm pushing a decade. By the time all this stuff shakes out and the Simple Life series is really moving forward, it's going to be 10 years. Mm-hmm. An overnight success that took 10 years, right?
I was just about to say, everybody loves overnight success that took 10 years to make.
Yeah. And to be honest, both me and that is actually short. Mm-hmm. That's not exactly a long path.
No.
I know some very famous people who took 25 years for them to hit it.
Yeah.
And it's funny. That's why we get along so well, because we talk about that a lot. Mm-hmm. You're very direct and honest with your mistakes. I publish my mistakes. People are always go, man, I love your books because you just say, I did this. I screwed it up royally. Here's how you fix it. Don't do that. Mm-hmm. Because a lot of books are about all the successes, how great I did this and how I made it to the pinnacle. And, it makes it look like they never really struggled. It's just they figured it out. Boom, 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 boom. All you got to do is this, but they don't talk about the mistakes that they made. And it kind of puts you in this false pretense that you think no matter what, all you got to do is what they did and you're just going to succeed. Mm-hmm. Anything that you succeed in has failures in it. And the failures are what define you.
Yep.
Success does not define you at all. Because the road to success is paved with a road and highways of failures.
Exactly.
And they go, that's a shitty attitude. It's just the way it is.
Yeah.
And like me, I go around, I talk to a ton of people, interviews and writing but I like it. Don't get me wrong. I like this stuff, but it's still work. Yeah. I mean, I still have to show up. I still have to put in the time and no one sees the back end. I'm an everyday guy. I had to figure it out. And that's how it's going to work for most people. But the remote lifestyle, that's what I mean. You see, there's so many facets to it, so many pieces of how you can live it. You don't need to be an entrepreneur necessarily. You don't need to do it. You don't even need to do it full time. I know people who live like this part of the year, other part of the year, they live in a house. There's so many different ways you can do it.
Yeah.
And I think if you go in with an open mind and go, okay, this is what I want to do. What's my plan? How do I do it? How do I go about it? Take it in chunks. How do you eat an elephant?
One bite at a time.
One bite at a time.
Well, dude, Gary, it's always awesome to have you on the show. How, we gave out the website address a little while ago. What is that address one more time?
The Simple Life Now, NOW.com, not the Simple Life. I think that may take you to Nicole Richie and
Paris Hilton.
Paris Hilton.
Yeah.
DVD site or something.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, it's the simplelifenow.com. Easiest way to get to me. We went off on a tangent. So yeah.
Us go off on a tangent? No, never. Squirrel.
If we went and we didn't have anything to do we could roll this thing for 4 or 5 hours.
Oh yeah. Yeah. We've had those conversations on a random weekday. So yeah. Yeah, I think so.
Exactly.
All right.
We should start recording those, right?
Well, yeah, they should be their own weird tangent podcast of some kind. But anyway, dude, as always, it's great to have you on, and I look forward to having you on some more so we can talk more about what's going on with your off-grid stuff soon.
Thanks a lot, Aaron.
Show notes, links to Gary, and other surprises can be found by going to intherabbithole.com/E267. If you're watching this on YouTube, be sure to do all the YouTube stuff. Like this video, subscribe, and slap that bell around because bananas are yellow. Get more survival goodness and help support the show. Visit i2h.net to become part of the Roving Horde Armada. It's members just like you who really do help keep the lights on. Again, visit i2h.net. With that, we wrap up episode number 267 from the Lone Star State. Till next time, stay safe and sound.